All right, I'd like to call this P and Z meeting to order. If you'd stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the republic, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and all.
All right, well, thank you. We got everybody here today, so we got a full call. Can I get a motion to approve or correct the rules? Last meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the last month's minutes.
I got a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So the review of the application is heard and approved on October 21st at the Board of County Commissioners.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. So at the October 21st, 2025 Board of County Commissioners meeting, the following applications were heard and approved. So first was a zone map amendment from I-1 to rural residential as requested by Adonis Don and Eliza Frias. And then the second had a intent language amendment to section 7, 17, and 21 of the 2015 Sweetwater County zoning resolution. And the public comment period for the notice of intent or the zoning for the language amendment to those sections has closed and is expected to be adopted at the December 16th, 2025 Board of County Commissioners meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. So it looks like we have a heavy agenda today. So I'd entertain a motion, or are we going to go ahead and go into our public hearing number 1?
Great, thank you, Mr. Chair. So,
Second, get you on there. So they said they were having problems with the audio.
Oh.
Two, not going. Might have to go get IT. Is this two? And two. Here we go. Yeah, I'm on Zoom. Okay, thank you. Sorry.
all right, you good to go?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. So this is going to be a proposal for language amendments to the sections. Oh,
Hang on.
Oh, it's feeding back through.
Does it sound like you, Cassidy?
yeah, unfortunately. Not to me, I think I sound like, but I've listened to it enough that,
I usually.
okay. So it'll be for the sections dealing with zoning permit fees, the district use chart. I put the parking regulations table. That's something that I've kind of gone back and forth with, and we can have some discussion there, definitely. Section 19E, short-term rentals, and then section 21 definitions. And I just realized too that on parts of this first page here where it says application summary, there are some things that need to be changed. This is just dealing with short-term rentals, not the other things like it says, but the red strike is going to be, well, actually, yeah, red strikeout is going to be removed, if any, and then my fixes are going to be shown in red. So for the review criteria for language amendments, the first is that the language amendment is consistent and compatible with the current resolution and comprehensive plan. The purpose of this language amendment is to further allow for orderly economic growth and compliance with the comprehensive plan through the provision for regulations for short-term rentals. We have had quite a few residents call and inquire about what our regulations are for short-term rentals, wondering if we allow them and how that can go. So we kind of wanted to get ahead of it and make sure that we do have things on the books so people can use their properties appropriately and to meet county regulations and mitigate any adverse effects that may arise due to allowance of short-term rentals. So with that, we'll go ahead and jump into my proposals here. So the first one is to the fees for zoning permits. So currently we charge $50 and I'm proposing to bump that up to $100. In doing my research on different counties in Wyoming, it looks like that's more of a reasonable and common fee there. And because a lot of the other counties actually right now are thinking about adjusting their fee schedule as well. So just want to make sure that we're kind of on the same page with them and that when it comes time, we're also not bumping up at too fast of a rate. We don't want to just hit people with a crazy fee out of nowhere when before it was much less. So I thought that the $50 increase would be a reasonable amount there just for a zoning permit. The next section is going to be in the district use chart. And so this is just adding in short-term rentals in the lodging section for uses and having them listed as permitted under each residential zoning district and also agriculture. Okay. So I did take out my part for section 11D in the parking regulations chart because one of the conditions that I put, in there kind of will reference back to it, but I didn't actually make a change to the chart, but we'll come upon that. So this is in the supplemental use section of the county's zoning resolution, and it'll be E, short-term rentals. And so I don't want to read too much word for word here, but because this is kind of all new, we'll do my best to kind of summarize it. But basically, short-term rentals shall comply with all applicable zoning district and developmental standards of the developmental codes, and no person shall offer short-term rental on their property without first obtaining a short-term rental permit from the land use department. This is something that we're a short-term rental is we're going to be defining it as the rental of a dwelling unit or a portion thereof to be used as lodging for periods of less than 30 days and does not include house swap, home exchange, arrangement, or subletting. And in order to be issued a short-term rental permit, the applicant would have to do the following. So first, we are going to require that notice be posted on the property so that adjacent property owners, agencies, any parties of interest have been notified and they get a 14-day period to voice any concerns that they may have. And if there are no reasonable concerns after those 14 days, then the application can move on to be approved by the department. If there are reasonable concerns and they cannot be mitigated, then we shall schedule public hearings before the commission and the board to receive approval of the short-term rental permit. This is pretty similar to how we already do our temporary hardship exceptions. And so just wanting to make sure that we're giving adjacent property owners an opportunity to voice any concerns they have there. Then for the application part, we're looking for them to have a completed short-term rental permit application form, pay the short-term rental application fee, which is going to be that $100 zoning permit fee, and then turn in a completed and signed short-term rental inspection affidavit. So this is something that our code enforcement officer and fire warden Alan Adams would be responsible for going in, just making sure that the home is up to International Fire Code and, reasonable for somebody to go in and stay in and safe. Then proof that a permitted small water permitted small wastewater system exists or is planned to serve the property if central sewage disposal is unavailable. And then when it comes time for renewal of the short-term use permit or short-term rental permit, they would be expiring every year from the time that they were approved. And the applicant would just pay a $50 renewal fee at the time of the application. And we would go through and make sure that, they're still up to code and all of those things there. We did put a provision in here that permit renewal may be delayed or denied by the land use staff, just based on failure to renew short-term rental by expiration date. So that's just something, not necessarily that it would be denied for a renewal, but just that it might take us a little bit longer to say, yes, you're good to go if we have to start the process over again because it wasn't renewed in time. We're also, if the renewal application form is incomplete, if we've had valid written formal complaints on file for the property during the past year of operation of the short-term rental, we don't want a rental to become an issue for a neighborhood. And then discovery of violation of the county's regulations on the property. If the department denies the permit, of course, then the applicant would be able to appeal and go through the appeals process for that. The last part that I added in here are the conditions for all short-term rental permits. First, that the request shall not adversely affect adjacent properties. I did take most of these from a lot of them from conditional use permit type of requirements. Second, the request is compatible with the existing or allowable uses of adjacent properties. 3, the request can demonstrate adequate provision for maintenance of the use and associated structures. 4, the request is minimized to the greatest degree possible adverse effects on the natural environment. 5, the request will not create undue traffic congestion. 6, the request will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare. 7, request conforms to all applicable provisions of this resolution. And so then, and there are quite a few conditions here, but 8, the operator shall ensure that the short-term rental is used in a manner that complies with all applicable laws, rules, and regulations, contractual agreements, and covenants pertaining to the use and occupancy of a short-term rental. 9, the property owner must designate a local property representative who shall be available 24 hours per day, 7 days per week, for the purpose of responding within 1 hour to complaints regarding the condition, operation, or conduct of occupants of the short-term rental, and taking remedial action to resolve any such complaints. It can be the landowner, or somebody else that they choose to be in charge of that. And then we would require that the representative and the property owner have their contact information on file with us at the county, which we would obtain through the permitting process. And then 11, short-term rental unit owners are subject to and responsible for collecting and remitting all applicable taxes, specifically including the sales and lodging tax. 12 is that the required number of off-street parking spaces will correlate to the residential uses listed in Section 11D Parking Regulations table of the 2015 Sweetwater County Zoning Resolution. So this is kind of where I went back and forth a little bit with things. I did meet with P&Z Commissioners Cordova and Sheehan. We discussed and talked through basically this whole section and all of the amendments that I was proposing here. And it was brought up that, in some areas, parking is a little bit more limited than in others. And so at first I was proposing one off-street parking space per room. And I thought maybe that doesn't quite fit. So I figured that the best way to handle that would just be to stick with the requirement that's already in place for each residential zoning area. So happy to hear any feedback on any of that, but specifically that part there too. Let's see. 13, tents, tent trailers, campers, and recreational vehicles may not be used as short-term rentals. 14, no short-term rental shall be permitted within 1,000 feet, including public right-of-way of a school building in which children attend classes measured from the center point of each school building. This is a regulation that Douglas, Wyoming actually put into place for theirs. And, this way just mitigating any traffic concerns in school districts, or like school zones. And then also, y- you know, you never know who's renting out something for a short term. So just kind of keeping that in mind as well. And then 15 for limiting and density of short-term rental properties. No more than 2 short-term rentals shall be permitted within 1 block on the same street in any residential zone. And then the last one that I have is that short-term rental permits are non-transferable. And that's all that I have for my proposals, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
Yes, I got a couple.
Okay.
Sorry, Cassie.
No.
So you have on here, the owners will have to have a representative or themselves to take care of any disputes for 24/7. Is that even feasible? I mean, how, if you're a property owner, how can you mitigate that? I mean, how are they going to enforce that?
Can I comment on this?
Absolutely.
So when we had this discussion, it said within 1 hour, and that was my same concern also. But the way that the language reads means within that hour, you respond to that text message or that call saying, I hear you, I hear your complaint, we're seeking out a resolution. I don't think it's feasible that somebody is at the property within an hour. That isn't
But
possible.
that's kind of what the language states. I mean, you have to actually, it should state, you can via text or phone, but this is it. I was under the assumption here that it was, you had to physically come and take care of it within, that time frame.
Okay. No, that's
You see what I'm saying?
Yes,
Because
no,
that's the way I'm reading
absolutely.
it.
yeah, and we can definitely amend that language so that it's more clear on just a response is expected. That's something too that I think if adjacent property owners are having an issue with issues not being taken care of in a timely manner, then they can put the written formal complaint into us is really how I envision it being like followed up on
Okay.
for renewal and things like that.
Well, that was my first concern. My second one is this number 15, no more than 2 short-term rentals shall be permitted within the 1 block of the same street in any residential zone. So if you have a residential zone, let's say out by the golf course, and you have, let's say, 8 houses out there. And I mean, this is not true, but let's say you have 8 houses, all those 8 owners want to do a rental. That's not, you can't, okay, no, can only 2, that's not fair. I don't like that, because what's to say, okay, you 2 can do it, but the rest of you 6 can't. I think putting a restriction on that, I don't think that's fair. And I don't know your thought process on this.
Okay. My thought process on that is just it'd be kind of a first come, first served basis. And that way certain areas, especially areas that are in highly favorable places, maybe by like say the Flaming Gorge, where people have been asking about short-term rentals, where the whole neighborhood isn't just taken over with short-term rentals.
But how do you
and-
determine which 2 is what I'm getting at? Let's say me and Tim, we have 2 houses, each one of us want to do it. We have it locked up for, let's say, a year. Well, Mark wants to do it. Well, he's out of luck. He can't do it. So that kind of, I don't think that's fair. Because there's no stipulation. Well, I could have it for a year. I get hold of Tim, let's say, well, we have to renew these before Mark comes in. You
Okay.
see what I'm saying?
Definitely, yes.
Mr. Chairman. So just to address, this is not an uncommon thing to have in a zoning resolution. If you go to our SOBs, our sexually oriented business language, we actually do the same thing because this is not in comparison to that, but it's just an example where you don't want something to turn into a red light district. Okay, so that's the thing, they've got to be so far apart from each other. Yeah, it's competitive. And I think liquor licenses are that way too, so it is a first come, first served basis, the way it's written. The concern is, and I can think of a specific area where this could happen, when you get into a more vacation type of rental place, it could turn everything into that. And it's no longer a residential really developed. It's not a typical single family dwelling. It's turned more into vacation rentals. And
Yes.
maybe that's okay. But that's what I believe that's the intent of what Cassidy was going with that was to, now we could look at how many, on there and adjust those numbers accordingly. Sometimes you try to stay more in a safe area of them, more conservative numbers so that we don't open the door wide open. So that's the reasoning for it. Of course, it's your decision of eliminating language or keeping it. But just to kind of explain what can happen if you don't have anything in there. So,
I realize that,
So-
we're not a vacation destination area in Wyoming, but I don't want to limit people down Manila, that area down there, on this side of the border. If they do have some and you have a street there and, they basically those houses the people are going to make their income. And I hate to have like 6 houses in a row there on our side of the border. And all 6 of those people, they want to rent those houses. Well, we can only do 2. Sorry, but that's the limit. And we don't have, Sweetwater County is not in we're not in an area that people are going to have whole blocks taken care of, with VRBOs or rentals. So I understand what you're doing, but I just don't want to limit the areas like down by Manila or, if when the Olympics come to Salt Lake again, if they want to come up here and, there's a whole block in Green River or something, I just think 2 is pretty restrictive. I don't think we have to worry about a whole block being rented out, being in our area. If we was like in Jackson or maybe even Pinedale, for example. But in Sweetwater County, I don't think we have that.
yeah, and maybe a suggestion, and just because of the way that is worded too, Cassidy, you could look at maybe some adjustments on, is it a subdivision block? Because we don't have very big subdivision blocks. And so maybe a distance requirement would be better. Maybe look some different options that could be presented.
Because most of them are going to be in either Rock Springs or Green River.
Yeah, because down in Manila, it's going to be 40-acre.
Yes. Yeah.
There are some subdivisions down there, but yeah. So, okay. Thank you.
I would have concern that if I'm a permanent resident of that same subdivision,
Mhm.
that I would have a concern in where's my quiet enjoyment if I have
Yeah.
traffic.
But I'm your neighbor and I have the house on both sides of you. And I built them specifically to rent them out. That's going to be my income in my retirement. And you do do a VRBO. Most people are out. They're not there at their house, but you're going to get the occasional, somebody's going to party and make a nuisance. Well, that's where, like I have my place up in Pinedale. That have an HOA. There's no VRBOs allowed. I mean, there is always that option, but have the people who own the property, in advance, okay, I'm going to buy this property next to you, Tim, but there's an HOA in place that doesn't allow the VRBO. So, but you have it and they do allow it. I don't think you should limit it. That's what I'm getting at.
But if I can't afford, if I just,
It's kind of a slippery slope here.
yeah, if I'm just thinking, at some point, and I'm worried about the party.
Yeah.
I've done the short-term rentals on vacation. Love it. I didn't think I ever would care for it, but I really like it. But, I think there's got to be a way to, especially if you have permanent residents there, that you can kind of curtail that what's going on in that neighborhood.
I get that. And I agree with you. I don't want my neighbor to be able to VRBO that. I'm not for that either. But I'm just saying that restricts, when you put a restriction of their 2 houses per,
Well, I agree.
you know,
The
I agree
restriction
with
needs to
you.
probably be defined, but if I'm a permanent resident and 80% of the houses are transient people, then that becomes an issue, I think.
it does. But I'm just looking at the devil's advocate
Yeah,
here.
no, I did the same thing when we were trying to define this.
Well, and I think the 14-day announcement ahead of time kind of helps give the homeowners in the area at least the notification of this is what's kind of coming up, this what might be an issue. This, would be something if you're concerned, and I think that would be the time for people in the development to say, hey, this is getting out of hand, or it's taking
Yeah.
over the whole development.
Well, I just don't want a property owner to come in here and say, because this is written up as that there's 2 and be upset that, I want to be number 3 on this block. And he comes up in front of us and what was our retort to that?
Yeah, and like I said, trying to think of what we could do to kind of help convey that is, do we, anything over two is on a case by case?
Something like that, yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that might,
Or depends on how many lots or how many houses are in this particular
Density.
density area.
Mhm.
And I was thinking about the Olympics too.
Right.
You know, that would be a perfect opportunity, maybe an event like the high school rodeos where you could do case by case, short-term rentals. That maybe they're not even reported. I don't know, but, or permitted, but. in
I guess-
Cases.
I guess what we're getting at is that the putting of the restriction of two maybe be an issue for me.
No, Mr. Chairman, and just, Commissioner Doak, I just got one more comment. So the area that we're speaking of specifically where there are the most issues is the area you're talking about, is where the people don't want them. And so, Cedar Cliff Estates is in location of it, and there was a lot of issues. Someone was opening up an Airbnb, and it was just ongoing issues with that. And there are people that are retired down there, live full time. And so, that ultimately got shot down. We've tried these regulations once before and they got shot down because of the issues down there. Now this opens it countywide, which is a good thing. But, yeah, just food for thought. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you need something in there, Mr.
I do, I think
Yeah,
you do
I think
too,
need
but
something.
I do too. And I agree with Tim. I don't want a Airbnb next to me. I don't want that, but I know there's some people that's their retirement. I mean, they live off that money that property, generates. And I get that too as a business side of it.
Yeah. Yep. No, I.
So I just think, I just wish there's a way we could word it that maybe like what Mark said, a case by case study on the area, and we can do something to that effect. Because maybe, with just maybe one area, just one house. But they have to know going in. I mean, it's like buyer beware after the fact.
Yeah.
I bought this, I'm gonna VRBO it, and all of a sudden, oh no, you guys aren't gonna let me do it.
Um,
I don't know what you do. I'm just, I don't know how you'd word that.
No, Commissioner Line, Commissioner Doak, I think that that's a great point. And if I'll work on some wording, maybe the case by case one, just so that it makes sense per area. And I know there are some, places with larger lots too, where we might run into people wanting to do, more in the neighborhood than, that too.
Could you,
So.
Ashley, I
absolutely.
got an idea. Could you actually, write it up to the way, and John might know a little bit about this. So if somebody wants to, they have to put an application in before the county commissioner, before the P and Z to do a Airbnb or a VRBO. And then they have to submit that like we do on almost any part of our agenda, signage and then let the community comment if they want that or not. Could you do something like that?
I don't see why not. Definitely would be something we could do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's a threat, like
Yep.
tier system.
Yeah, exactly. That way they just don't buy it and they say, oh, I'm gonna do it via, but I have to go
Yeah.
through the process to do it. Then they can be
No, I
more
get
than one, it could be just one, it could be zero.
I
And that would depend on the neighbors.
missed you, Casey.
No, you haven't, Eric.
I have. truthfully.
any other questions, comments?
Mr. Chair. So, on page 147, he's talked about, in section 8, that complies with applicable law. And then going back to page 146 under, section 1, second line down, you indicate it's a non-discretionary administrative permit. Is there, and I guess, what gives the county teeth to if there's problems in a neighborhood, problems with a short-term renter, or the person renting the house, that we have the ability to revoke that within that year?
So, that is, I think, where it gets a little bit sticky on that year part. was imagining it as, if there's all these issues that have not been addressed by the property owner, then their permit would not be renewed
Yeah,
for the following year.
correct. But at month 2, the neighbors have had it. We got 8 more months to deal with it. That's
Yeah,
so.
that-
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Sheehan, so in the zoning resolution, we added language just to address this, your very concern as, and this goes with building permits, conditional uses, or whatever they may be. So if someone is not following the regulations or they're not following their permit, like what they said they would do, we have what's called, we can actually repeal that application. We send them a notice for 30 days and say, okay, you need to rectify it. And then it's actually, if they do not, we can bring it back before the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners it's called revocation. That's what
Okay.
it is. So we can revoke the permit through a public hearing process. The neighbors are notified so that they're a part of the process too.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. No further questions. Okay.
Anything else? Public comment? So I'd like to open this up to public comment. If there's anybody for or against, you'd please come up, state your name and make your comments. Seeing no one rushing up to the podium, I will close public comment. And I would entertain a motion for approval for public hearing number 1.
Question, Mr. Chair, how do we want to address the section on a 2-term rentals?
So I think we can do an approval with adding that in
Okay,
to make sure that it's in the record and that it gets added and we'll address it again.
okay, acceptable language. Okay.
Yes.
I would make a motion to accept, sorry, lots of words. Our agenda number 1 with making language amendments to section 15 on no more than 2 short-term rentals may be permitted in 1 block in the same residential zone.
Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Eric, you got anything else for us?
Just I attended the scoping meeting for the resource management plan last Wednesday. All in all overall, a decent process. We'll see how it goes. This is amending the special designation section of the RMP. So all the staff was there and we talked with them. And so we will see. And they're anticipating a record of decision by October of 2026. So,
Nothing sooner then, huh?
that's a short timeline.
Yeah. Government.
So yeah, we'll see what happens with that, but that way it allows time for both protest and the 60-day consistency review at the governor's office. So anyway, just thought I'd update you on that and hope all you guys have a Merry Christmas. So thank you
Yeah.
for all your volunteer work too. Thank
I
you.
also heard that the 18th is the last day for public comment on that first section that they're coming out with.
Say it again, sorry.
The 18th is the last
Yeah.
day for
Yes.
public comment.
And so the public's always asked, what should I comment on? Because I don't have time to absorb a 1,200 page document. And my advice to them is if you want to comment on the resource management plan, special designations are always a concern for access. And so if there's a favorite part of the area that you recreate in, make those comments known to the Bureau of Land Management so that they know what areas that you would like to remain open and such. That's trying to absorb that document as entirety, because there's layers upon layers, is difficult. So I think my best advice is if the public's listening, to get out there and you can you can deliver them to the office out there at the Rock Springs field office, or you get on, if you just type in Rock Springs RMP amendment, the e-planning website comes up for you to submit a comment. So either way works, but whatever you're passionate about, comment on that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, well, thank you. With not having any other further business to attend,
Mr. Chair, so sorry. Just like 2 other things very quickly, if I can. I did want to mention that the land use office did advertise a conditional use permit that was going to be heard at the December public hearings, but there were the changes that happened with our zoning resolution. A conditional use permit was actually not required for that permit. It was dealing with a cell tower built on agricultural zoning. And so that application was withdrawn. And then also that we do not have any public hearings scheduled for January, so we will not be seeing each other next month probably. And I also just wanted to thank everybody for your feedback and consideration with these proposals for the language amendments. You know, this is really my first big proposal for those, and I very much appreciate the feedback because, you know, there's things that I hadn't thought of or maybe missed, and I just think you guys are great. So thank you for that.
Well, and thank you, Cassidy, for all your hard work. I mean, you make it easy for us to sit up here, so thank you.
You really do. Yeah.
Thanks.
All righty. With that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry
Yeah,
Christmas.
yeah. Merry Christmas.
You know, eventually I'll